everyone. This is Lacey with the Your Lyme Matters podcast. And today I have two very special guests. I have Dawn and Jack. Jack is the white and black pup, and Dawn is the human. Hello, Dawn.
Hello,
thank you for
Lacey.
joining us.
How are you?
Not too bad, thanks for asking. Thank you guys for joining us. I love that we have Jack joining us as well. One day we hope to get Zaz here on a podium beside me, but it's in the mix.
Jack's sitting with me because he's an anxious dog and he's having a little bit of an anxiety attack. He just feels more comfortable sitting here, so
something we know well in the community, the anxiousness, and so we get it, Jack. We get it. I appreciate that you're helping him out there too. So Dawn, where are you located? Where are you tuning in from?
Pickering, Ontario, which is just the outskirts of Toronto. I've lived in this area pretty much my whole life. I've traveled a fair bit, but that's where Jack and I and my family are living right now. Right now we're up north, a little north in Haliburton. We have a little summer place up there, and we're up here enjoying a little quiet time, a little nature time.
We like nature time, so we'll delve into a bit more of Dawn's history. But Dawn has been affected with Lyme and Co-infections. Dawn, which diagnosis have you been given in terms of Lyme and Co-infections?
So for me, it's just Borrelia and Bartonella. Yeah. I first became symptomatic I remember exactly, it was Thanksgiving of 2014. For I'm going to say a month or two before that, I was having headaches that were a little more than normal, and I was complaining a bit about that. But at Thanksgiving, a family outing, family get-together, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a serious headache. Had to put myself in a small dark room. I thought, what's going on here? And of course, it got worse. Got worse from there.
So you had a rapid onset of symptoms, it sounds like.
That's correct.
And were you able to get testing for Lyme disease done from what you're able to access here in Canada, or did you first go paid out of pocket for testing?
My story wasn't like that at all. Shortly thereafter, I went in to see my family doctor. My wife came in with me, and we said, I'm really struggling here, and we're wondering if it's Lyme disease because I spend a lot of time out in the woods. I do trail running, so it's very common for me to be outside. And our first thought was, wow, this could be Lyme disease. Went in to see the family doctor, and he says, one thing I'm sure is that this is not Lyme disease. There's no point even testing you for Lyme disease because it's clear that that's not what this is. So I took him at his word, and then we spent years exploring other options. So no, I did not get tested right away.
Later on, was it paid out of pocket testing you did?
It went 8 years of suffering before I got testing. Some of it was just terrible. I went through all kinds of tests that you can imagine, like other people might have. At one point, the doctor said, okay, I give up trying to figure out what it is. I have no idea what it is, but I'm going to send you to a pain specialist, see if we can manage your pain. And they put me on an opioid. I don't know if you know, but opioids and Borrelia do not mix. It's a really bad idea. And I thought, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to die. The pain was so overwhelming and so intense. And the pain specialist didn't seem to believe me that I was getting worse and worse, because he kept telling me to up and up the dose. When I would say it's getting worse, he would tell me to increase the dose. So over one summer, 2017, I think, I went through this, and if I said I can't do this anymore, and then I had to go through withdrawal, which I couldn't imagine something getting worse, but that was even worse. And it was just my wife who helped me through being bedridden and going through withdrawal over, I'm going to say, 8 weeks to get off of that, to bring me back to my base level of just the Lyme.
Wow.
So that was like the worst experience of my life. I didn't expect to survive it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're still here with us, and that you fought through that withdrawal and everything. You mentioned the opioids. Are you saying you are essentially still feeling the pain through the opioids, and the pain is also getting worse through the opioids while taking?
It would be kind of like a Herx reaction. It would just magnify everything you feel. So it was mostly pain around my head, my neck, my shoulders, and very intense muscle pain. And the only relief I could find is if I would almost like lie with my head over the end of the bed, my arms over the bed, and lie head face down. So I would spend my days in that position because that was the only thing that I found at the time that gave me relief from the pain. So I spent a summer lying in that position.
Okay.
Imagine it like a dramatic Herx response.
I also have tried opioids, and
Oh, have you?
they didn't help with my symptoms above my shoulders. It's like they
Yes.
couldn't quite cross to actually help me all that much with the pain, so I had to pivot away.
I had that dramatic pain response to them like I did.
I didn't have that, but the issue was that it just didn't help my pain
Okay.
whatsoever, really. So I would take it and I was like, the pain is still just as bad. So I was curious your experience with it.
Now, did you struggle? Sorry to ask, but did you struggle to get off of them like I did?
I wasn't on them quite long enough because I
Okay.
wasn't having much of a positive effect from them. I didn't say on them to answer that long enough to have withdrawals, but I have heard and witnessed people with very severe withdrawals as well. And I also heard you say that you had very serious headaches. To describe that pain briefly for people who might be experiencing it but not know how to describe it.
In my case, it started around my face, around my eyes, the pain like this, spread, which I think is fairly common, and around my ears as well. And then my face, one side of my face went all numb. I would imagine a migraine intense pain would be just a constant pain all the time. It just never stops. It's not throbbing, it's just there all the time. And then, like others, 70% of people I understand who have with Borrelia experience intense migrating pain. It's considered a distinctive symptom of Lyme. You're probably aware. And I would have that. It would move over the months or even years slowly throughout my body, that starting at the top of my head and then working its way down. It would never go away up there, but it would all start to spread throughout my body slowly over time. One thing that did help me that I found relief from was going to an osteopath, which is basically a massage, isn't it? An intense massage. So I would go for a massage. I had to wear a mouth guard at night to sleep, grinding my teeth and crack my teeth at night.
Yep.
The massage would give me just an immense amount of relief from the pain, but it would be short term. It would give me relief for 1, maybe 2 days. The pain would build back up, and then the next week I would go through it again.
And thank you for pointing out that that can be a key feature of Borrelia. Lyme disease is migrating pains for people listening. I'm sorry to hear, Dawn, also that you went 8 years, essentially, it sounds like, without that positive result or clinical diagnosis of, yes, you have Lyme disease. Because we know 8 years is a long time for it to be inside of a human being. Eventually, then, did you have a positive result through some sort of testing?
Like I said, at the 8-year mark of this, it's hard to imagine suffering so much pain for so long. So I have complete sympathy because I know there are people who've been suffered much longer than I have and continue to suffer. So I have so much sympathy for people who are continuing to go through this terrible thing that is tick-borne infections. But at the 8-year mark, my doctor, family doctor, and the specialists we worked with, they all kind of gave up. They figured, oh, maybe you've got fibromyalgia. That was the only diagnosis I got. At that point, my wife said to me, because she was such a big help for me and all this, she said, we need to go back and revisit Lyme disease. Look at this article I found about symptoms of chronic long-term Lyme disease. And she gave me an article, and I said, wow, this really does read like what I think I'm going through. So I started reading up about it. And in the articles, I found mention of an LLMD that I didn't know such a thing existed, but his name was mentioned. He was Canadian. And so I searched him out, got put on the waiting list, waited a few months. And yes, for the first thing he did is he sent my blood off for an IGeneX immunoblot test. And that's when I tested positive for Bartonella and Lyme Borrelia. And then I began my healing journey, which I've been under for, I guess we'll call it 3 years now.
Now, you said you had some pretty severe pain. Were you someone that had it in the cervical area of your neck or no? Okay,
yes.
I like to ask that one because Lyme likes to hang out there because of the tissue in that area. Did the severe pain have any effect on your energy and or mood at all?
Yes, and yes. That like many people, I'm sure the fatigue is terrible with tick-borne infections in general. So yes, I suffered terribly from fatigue. Up until then, I was running my own small business. I had 3 small businesses. I coincidentally, my wife and I decided to slow down. We had sold one, and I was going to continue on with the others, but I could not. I had to get rid of the other business. I could not function in any sort of useful or predictable way in the business world. So I lost my businesses because of it. And I became mostly non-functional. I couldn't do anything for any length of time. I could not concentrate for any length of time. So just existing was a real struggle. The other thing I did that did help me, though, is I read about the importance of exercise, keeping your body moving through all this. So historically, I'm a long distance runner, not a particularly good one. Don't get me wrong. I was not actually any, just what I enjoy doing out in the trails, spent a lot of time in the trails, a lot of trails around here where I am in Halliburton and also down where I lived. And we, had groups that we would run with. And I'm sure I never saw the tick. I never saw the bullseye's rats, but I'm sure I got the infection out on one of those trails. But I would find that if I would go back out when I was suffering and go for a run, I could only move slowly, and it was a real struggle and it was painful. I found that after about 30 minutes of moving as best I can, I would start to feel some relief. I don't know if it's just, the little bit of heat, maybe Lacey, heating up the muscles a little bit, getting them moving, more blood flow. But I would find that after a length of time of aerobic exercises, I would start to feel relief, and I would look forward to those times because then I would just keep moving for as long as the fatigue would let me go, because that would be a period of relief for me in the day. I'd get another hour of relief from the pain, which I really would look forward to during the days that I was able to do it.
And to answer your question, there seems to be a bit of a split in terms of people that are still feeling good when they're doing exercise that's a bit higher intensity. And then there's this drop off where they have really bad recovery symptoms because their cells are just not able to replenish what's being depleted. So it sounds like in your case, you're at an area where you're still reaping the benefit. So there's some people where they go to the other side and they get really, really severe recovery fatigue. And then their practitioners tell them kind of pause off because you're not actually recovering. So I'm actually really glad to hear that you were still able to do that. Were you able to still do that throughout, or did you have to put that aside for...
No, I would say towards the end of the 8 years, the migrating symptoms had spread down to my lower body, my hips and my legs, to the point that I could only shuffle. It looked like I was heading towards being in a wheelchair. I could barely walk. I couldn't get up or down stairs. There was no running that was going to be happening at that point. And that's when I was starting to feel a little bit panicked about the whole situation, because that's where I was going. And that's when we suddenly went back and revisited the whole Lyme thing at that point.
In terms of where you're at today, is it more walking that you do now, or are you able to still do a bit of a jog? Where are you at with that today?
As of today, in the 3 years that have taken me here, I've gone through a series of remissions. The first remission, I would say, was only about 2 weeks, but they had become longer and longer. The last remission was less than a year, but many, many months long. And then I had to go back in treatment because the LMD thought things that had spread into my vagus nerve and my brainstem. So I went back. I've just finished 3 months of intensive treatment. I'm in remission now for about 2 weeks, and right now, I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm weaker I think for everything I've gone through, and I still suffer from fatigue, but I have no pain in my body whatsoever, and I could go out for a short run right now, and I'm looking forward to getting my body back in shape. I don't know how long the remission is going to last this time. I'm not confident that it's gone, but I feel great right now. Honestly, I feel more energy than I've had in the last 11 years. I'm kind of hoping that does too.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody around you is probably hoping the same. Even Jack, he's like hoping.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, you're my support human.
He said we got to get back on the trails. We're hardly ever on the trails. We got to get back out there.
Yeah, he's ready. So, and what are you doing for treatment? I'm sure people would like to know.
My treatment program was through an LMD, so it was a hybrid program of a combination of antibiotics and naturopathic. I was one of the earliest people to try, as far as I know, the dapsone therapy from Dr. Richard Horowitz. Mm-hmm. I tried that very early on, tried the high-dose dapsone. I've done the double dose and 4 times dose, which was a really tough protocol to go through. I'm sure you've heard that. It's tough. I've also been through disulfiram, which is also can be tough as well.
I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in this last 3-month treatment, I was on a combination of dapsone and disulfiram plus a couple of traditional antibiotics plus methylene blue, some tinctures, leucovorin that goes along with it, which, it's a fairly expensive combination of drugs, right? It's problematic for all of us with Lyme that not only you're paying for the service of your healthcare provider, you're paying for all your drug costs. And they can be prohibitively expensive at times, right? The
Oh,
leucovorin,
for
for
sure.
example, that I've been taking, I just turned 65. So leucovorin has gone from almost close, if I was taking all time, it'd be $20,000 a year. And because I'm 65, it's $1.10 a prescription.
Okay. And what is it called? It's leucovorin?
Leucovorin is something you take along to help with the side effects that come with methylene blue. You're
Oh,
worried about
okay.
your oxygen absorption with methylene blue. Leucovorin is a drug is recommended to help with that.
Well, I just learned that from you right here, right now on the spot, and because
Well, there you go.
I'm taking methylene blue, so I'm going to look up leucovorin. So you mentioned, and in our community, some of the treatments can be very awful, right? But the goal is hopefully you're feeling better than how
Yes.
sick you were before.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
sounds like you're doing quite well then, in the scheme of symptoms.
Even if even if I'm not completely gone, when it comes back, it's much less intense than it was before. So
Okay.
it's probably at 30 or 40% in terms of the pain level and the suffering that I've gone through. If the remission ends and I pick it up wherever it appears in my body, I catch it early. I'm not letting it run for years before I'm treating it, right? The Bartonella seems to be completely gone from what
Okay.
I can tell. It's just the Borrelia now. And so if it comes out of its persister state, then I'm able to catch it quickly. So I don't go through the worst of it that so many of us have experienced.
Yeah, I've heard you mention in there that it was actually your wife that brought the idea of Lyme disease and co-infections to your attention.
Yeah, I just have the one. So yeah.
Yeah, your wife. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
just white cat.
just the one. She's probably saying that's a good thing. Just the one wife. How do you know how that came to her attention? Was that just she was looking around and kind of saw something that sounded like you, or?
To be honest, the first time we went in, I don't remember if it was her or I that first brought up Lyme. I don't remember. But certainly at the end of the 8 years, it was her. We read something somewhere about chronic Lyme. I don't remember where. And she's the one, look at this article. This looks like you, right? And that got me on the journey. She was the one that got me through the opioids. I wouldn't have gone through that without her. So yeah, she's the one that's helped me get through everything.
I always love hearing that as well when someone has someone helpful
Yes.
on their team, because it can go either way with all the skepticism around these illnesses and diagnosis.
I
So
know. So many people face terrible battles with those around them not believing what they're saying. Even your doctor. He struggled in the 3 years when I said, look, I got it. I know what I have now. This is what I got positive tests for. He's not believing in that, right? And he got angry at me. He was ready to fire me as a patient because I wouldn't stop going on about it. Every time I'd start up again, every time I had an appointment with him, because I was still seeing him regularly along with the LMD. And I would ask him to look into things, and he would get angry at me. We'd have fights in the little room that you sit in there. It was a struggle, and many people continue, as you know. They go, if you're going into a hospital, you're going to your doctor, like, what am I supposed to say? They're not going to believe me. It's a terrible thing to have to go through. That sometimes you have to change the story a little bit to enable you to get treatment. This is something that's so unfair for our community that it's a terrible burden to have on top of the terrible illness that you have.
it's the unfortunate reality, exactly at what you said. That's a lot of our people in our community strategize before their appointments. If they know someone's disbelieving, for example, they may not even bring up Lyme disease because they don't want to add further fracture to that dynamic. It sounds like you had a difficulty there with your provider as well.
I did. We've actually resolved it now. I was actually in seeing him today. I'm going to say 2 or 3 visits ago as I was leaving. Can you just do me a favor? Can you just go look into this on your own? I won't tell you to find information, where to find information or what to look for. Just go look into chronic or long-term Lyme. And he said, as I was saying, he says, I have too many patients. It's just not important enough for me to look into. But when I went to see him next time, he did. He did look into it. And I came in, the first thing he said to me, do you realize that the World Health Organization recognizes chronic Lyme? Did you know that? I said, yes, I do know that. And
Yeah.
so then we spent the whole appointment him asking me questions about chronic Lyme and what I knew about it, and it was completely changed. And then at the end of it, he said, "Thank you for giving me an education on this."
Wow, there you
And
go.
so now
Yeah.
when I go in to see him, we get along well, and he's happy to talk about it because he's now become a believer. It's terrible for trying to change the minds of the medical community is a real challenge for us because we have no authority. It's difficult for us to have a voice in that process. The information is there for them to find, but they've been told this is not a real thing. It comes from an authoritative voice, and they have no need to look into it because they got so many other things they have to do, so many other priorities.
You also highlight a bit of a stigma, almost like a marginalization, because
Right.
of exactly what Don is saying. In the certain health authorities and even countries, it's shaped in a way that it's in people's heads, or they're exaggerating symptoms. I appreciate you also highlighting that aspect of it for our listeners as well. Probably a lot of them feeling that, but not knowing the words to say, like, I go to get help and I feel this way. Now they have some words potentially to it. I know that you do some advocacy as well, which we will get into a bit more here, but I want to ask one other question, not related to advocacy, that we do on the podcast. For you with these illness, did Lyme and co-infections either increase or give new diagnosis related to mental health, so anxiety, depression?
Well, certainly it leads to depression, doesn't it? It leads to anxiety and depression because when you tie the pain and the fatigue together, it's very hard to say, what am I living for? Because my quality of life is just not there. It's a real hard thing. And at my age, I had events to look forward to, like the wedding of my children. But it's really hard. Something is coming in a few months. It's an event to look for. It's really hard to be optimistic and look forward to things in your future when you think, how am I going to get through? It's more like, how am I going to get through that event? I'm in such misery. How am I going to get through a wedding? How am I going to sit there and participate and come across and not ruin it for other people by being miserable? They become a burden almost rather than something to look forward to. I can't say I have a depressive personality, but I always had it in the back of my head that I will find a way through this. There is an end to this. I'm not going to be living like this for the rest of my life. I know there's a solution for this. And that's really what kept me going. I just the thought that I just haven't found the answer yet, right? It wasn't in my head that this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life. I never thought that way. So in a sense, I always had a little bit of optimism in there to keep me going. That's
Yeah.
what it was for me. For other people, it's much different. I know there's the Lyme rage that people talk about that can change people's personalities dramatically through no fault of their own as well. But I did not personally experience that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Sounds like your mindset and not willing to fully give in or up to these illnesses is part of what has kept you fighting through this the whole time. And you also highlight I think that sometimes we don't hear a lot about is that the rest of your future kind of gets either on hold or completely 300. And so I think people without these illnesses, they may not necessarily understand the planning that goes into going somewhere for a day and a night or 2 nights. Like that takes hours of planning your medications and the environments and stuff. So,
Or you don't go. In my case, I used to
exactly.
travel a lot for work, nature of business. No, I'm not doing that, right? I can't manage that. I'm just not doing all the things I used to do. They're just not happening. Your regular life gets put on hold. You miss family events. You miss things that you would normally do in your life because you can't face them.
Now, so if I were to ask you, so you've already answered this a couple of points. So your mindset is helping you get through it. I think you mentioned that your wife was helpful in there as well. Can you elaborate a bit in terms of what was helpful from your wife in the whole picture of getting through this journey?
Well, first of all, she never questioned anything I said. She never thought maybe some of this is in your head, you're exaggerating this, surely it's not that bad. Can't we, let's just get going and do whatever it is we need to do in life. She never questioned that. She always was completely supportive in everything I said. And there's the other part of the cost, right? We've lost our businesses, which is our form of livelihood. At the same time, my chosen path of therapy was expensive. There's naturopathic solutions, which are completely valid, but the path I chose was pretty expensive. At times I didn't take it because it was too costly to bear. But in general, she never complained about us spending our savings on this without knowing if it was going to work, because it took a long time before I started seeing benefits from it. So yeah, she was always been supportive of doing that, taking up more of the slack in terms of our family commitments with our kids, and now our granddaughter, which I'm happy to say.
Yeah.
And I have a granddaughter, and
People, yeah, grandparents, they love it. Yeah,
it's a wonderful
that's a
thing.
big deal.
You know what? After having gone through all this, it's a wonderful thing.
I bet.
Yeah.
And kids and dogs, they help to bring you into the present moment, just like
Yes.
without you having to do a lot of work to get there. They just kind of do. Get in as much of that time as you can with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and thank you. I'll say thank you. I'm sure you're doing it right now as well, but thank you to your wife for believing
Kathy.
you. So one, I heard you say in there, step one, she believed you.
Right.
And that is huge.
Right. It's true, because I've known people who said my spouse doesn't understand, doesn't believe. People have lost their spouses or boyfriends, girlfriends, significant others because of this, because of the financial burden, or just because the other person says, I can't live my life like this because we're not doing the things I thought I would do. So it's a terrible burden on your financial life, your personal life, your work life. Most of us, I'm going to say most of us can't work full time. Many of us can't work at all. So yeah, your combination of increased costs and little or no income is completely unjust.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should not be happening in Canada. It's completely unjustified.
The financial aspect is a whole, just, it's such a uncomfortable discussion. But you said a lot of people, they hear these suggestions from people. Even the suggestion in our community, we don't realize when we say go see a LLMD, Lyme literate medical doctor, or LLND, Lyme literate naturopathic doctor.
Right.
There is that portion of people, they will, in the foreseeable years, they will not be able to ever see those people. As you highlighted, there's a whole spectrum of finances, but it upheaves even the people who have finances. It affects retirements, all of those things. I see Jack has raised up to join the conversation here as well.
Yeah, he's a little worried. It's windy outside, and he gets worried about the wind. So
Oh,
he's thinking about that.
that's fair. Yeah. Yeah. The wind is spooky. It makes sounds and then you don't see anything to follow up with the sounds. So I get it, Jack. Thanks for sharing your personal journey with us. Appreciate the honesty there and the candid approach to it. But I would like to touch base on something that you also do, is advocacy. So my first question is, did Don, before he got sick, have any thoughts about any type of advocacy, or is this something new from the illnesses and the journey?
Completely new. I wouldn't have thought of anything. Like Don before was running little businesses and obsessed and stressed about all the day-to-day things that go in that, which seemed so important at the time, right? So
Yeah.
no, I
So,
wasn't big on volunteer work and that sort of thing.
okay, so this is completely new, this whole advocacy thing. What year or years of your journey did you start having that light bulb kind of saying, I'd like to do some advocacy, or what prompted the advocacy?
Well, first of all is the anger about not only people being burdened with terrible, terrible infections, there's more than one, but the fact that you're not supported in any way by the healthcare system, that A, you can't get treated properly, and B, you're on your own financially as well as medically, and you have to figure it all out yourself. Is a terrible burden for someone who's not well to begin with, maybe struggling with financial situation, family situation. And it's just completely unfair that something like this is happening these days. That I think we all feel that. But it wasn't until I was starting to have these longer and longer periods of remission that it occurred to me that I would be in a position to be able to do that. Because if you're going to start something, you can't, this is not a short-term venture. You have to be able to put the time in and continue at it. I was looking at something, trying to, what to me felt like a real way to help the tick-borne infection community. I really felt the need to try to help all those people out there suffering in some way, somehow, because it just seemed, and it is, so unfair for everyone. So I'm going to say a little over a year and a half ago that I was really felt that I could do this without just dropping the ball.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't that long ago that I really started putting an effort into it, maybe thinking about it before, but really being able to put an effort into it was pretty recent.
So even newer than I knew. That's good to know. Now there may be some future advocates hearing this podcast. We never know. We like to plant seeds. We like advocacy. First, can you tell us what is the name of your advocacy group?
So I formed an advocacy group called the Canadian Lyme Coalition, and I should probably tell you how I got to that point. So when I said, okay, I want to help, and I found out that my LMD had a Facebook group. I've never been on Facebook. I said, oh, great, I'll join that Facebook group. And I found that really enlightening, the conversation on there. And from there, I found out, oh, there was actually an Ontario Facebook group. I joined the Ontario group, and I found that even more satisfying. And I found that there were some people there that I could actually help and direct them to some resources. I started to, just because of living with it so long, I knew some places where people could get help. I could talk to people through Facebook and offer them some direction if they were just lost. It feels satisfying to be able to help someone and think that you're doing something to move them along their journey a little bit better. And that was through Carrie's Facebook group, who's a wonderful person, by the way, and it's a great organization. And I was doing that for a while, and that was great. And then an opportunity came up. There was, as you're aware, a national group, which is Lyme Canada, which is a fantastic organization. It's almost 8,000 members now. I joined them as well, of course, and they put out a call looking for some help. They needed some more help, and I said, great, I'm going to go join them. So I applied to join them. They accepted me as a moderator, and I found that work very satisfying as well, but continued to wanted to do a little bit more directly. I said I wanted to create a advocacy group. It was a bit of a conversation, but I went to the admin team at Lyme Canada, said I want to form this advocacy group, and I would like to continue to be associated with you. So it's now positioned as the advocacy arm of Lyme Canada. So it's the advocacy arm of our national support group, which is, runs through Facebook, and we call it Canadian Lyme Coalition. And that really started a little less than a year ago. Right about a year ago is when I started that effort. And initially, the Canadian Lyme Coalition was me. That was the name I chose, and it was just me. It has grown a bit since then, but that's how it started.
Right. I've always wondered how many members are in the Lyme Canada Facebook group.
I think it's just under 8,000 right now.
That's good to know. Yeah, I had no idea. I was guessing random numbers if I ever.
Yeah, and if anyone who's listening and haven't joined, you should join. It's a great resource. It's very active. The admin team do a great job managing the conversations. They have a great library. Ask to see the library. Just say, I'd like to have access to the library. They have all kinds of resources in there, and they can help give you all kinds of connections to healthcare that you might not know about. Everyone should be part of that group.
Yeah, it's a nice, safe spot to ask questions, too.
Yeah.
And for people listening, it's Lyme, space OH, Lyme and then Canada. So you search that, you'll be able to find it. Thanks for pointing that out. Now, Don, people out there in the community who don't have an endless budget or organization to feed them money for their advocacy, what are your thoughts on if you think people can do advocacy without a huge budget or not?
Our current annual budget for our group now is zero, and we're on target. So we don't have any money, and we manage. I should go back and tell you how it really kind of got going for me, because I'm just a guy, right? I have no real medical knowledge. I have no real experience in advocacy. I'm just have a little bit of energy now, and I'm just angry at what people have to go through. So the first thing that came to me when I was working on my own is that I need to understand as best I can what's happening in the community. So I decided that my first step was I was going to do a survey, but it was a survey of people with tick-borne infections. So to do that survey, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know how to structure it. So I just started talking to people. So I started looking up for researchers, the lead researchers in Canada involved in tick-borne infections. And I started emailing them and asking for their input. I looked at universities for their input. And then I looked for all the support groups I could find in Canada, and I contacted everyone that I could find. I'm sure I didn't catch everyone because there's lots of community-based groups out there, but everyone I talked to was willing to participate. So I had all the Facebook groups in Canada agreeing to participate and promote the survey that we produced. So The survey was live the first 2 weeks of this year, January and February. It was supported by researchers, supported by Mount Allison University, and we had a lot of people respond to the survey. So I thought it went really well, especially since I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so that's got me going, and it forced me to talk to people that I wouldn't have otherwise talked to. So I talked to as many people I could find in Canada that are involved in the Lyme community. Doctors, I'd phone, email all the doctors that I knew about. So yeah, anyone involved, it gives me now, I have a little bit of a base. That some people, they know me, and I know if an issue comes up, I have a sense of some people I could try to contact who can contribute to an issue. That's what got me going, and that's what led me to the other initiatives that we're now doing.
And are you able to speak of what some of those initiatives are?
I can speak a fair bit of what we're doing now. There's about 7 of us, I think, now who are the core part of the team within our little group. The other major organization in Canada you should mention is CanLyme. I'm sure many people have heard of CanLyme, and I've spoken with CanLyme, and they have been supportive of us. They've been a really big help on the things that we're doing. So there are times when we're working with CanLyme, and other times we're doing different things. But I think they're an organization that needs to be mentioned, and I want to say that they are actually supporting the survey that's produced. We haven't been able to release the results yet because researchers have been interested in it, and there's 2 research papers now being written based on some of the results off of the survey. One is out of Canada, one's actually based out of Europe, and CanLyme is financially supporting one of those ventures. So given a $0 budget, that is a big help for us.
And CanLyme, so you mentioned CanLyme. If people search that, they can just find that online. Sorry, no, I said online, but online.
Yeah.
They also do a podcast in there as well, so people can check out both. It sounds like you were about to say something else there, Don.
Probably. The other thing about CanLyme, if you're looking for an organization to support financially, we don't accept any money. CanLyme would be a place for your dollars to go. That would be.
If you're looking to donate to a cause.
They would make a good use. They would make effective use of any donations. After the survey, our naivete, we decided we were going to go do a media campaign. We are going to go after the media and try to explain to them that the hell that is chronic tick-borne infections, and try to get some media notice about that. So we asked for volunteers because I'm connected with Lyme Canada. They were able to help us find volunteers, and all the other groups that we participate also were willing to accept our request for volunteers. And we generated, I think, 85 volunteers in general to create a campaign. And then I got experts in research, and we have a website called Canadian Lyme Coalition.ca. And in that, you won't see it in there, but inside that website, there's a section for media. We had a team of 3 people putting together the best research we can to support and explain and give the story of what it's like to live with chronic Lyme in Canada. So there's pages in there, links to articles, videos, all kinds of stuff specifically designed for media organizations in Canada. So then we had some other people who went out finding the media contacts that we want to speak to. Who are the best people for us to talk to in Canada and pass this story along? So we had these 2 teams working together, and then when we were ready, we asked our 85 volunteers to start an email campaign. We broke it up, and different people were targeting different media organizations across Canada. We ran an 8-week campaign. Oh, and I had a journalist in Eastern Canada. I won't mention her name. I don't have her permission, but she's worked in well-known publications in Canada, US, to help with the writing, because I'm not a good writer. She helped us with the wording in a way that would help it, be comfortable for the people on the other end to receive the information. And I'm going to say it wasn't particularly successful.
Okay.
They just didn't have an appetite for the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the research that we have suggests that there is 200,000 people thereabouts in Canada suffering from tick-borne infections. If you do the math, that comes out to somewhere around 3 for every family practitioner in Canada. Has on average 3 patients. My doctor said no, he has none. He clearly has none. Wow. It's because the majority of people are misdiagnosed. There's research by Lloyd and Hawkins, who's a paper that estimates that over 90% of people with tick-borne infections in Canada still don't know that they have one because they have not been diagnosed or misdiagnosed by their doctor. So they don't know why they've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or one of a dozen other different things, and they're receiving inappropriate, ineffective treatment. But anyways, that story did not ring very well. They may get some benefit out of it, some stories, but it did not have the success we wanted. And the journalists were saying, yeah, this is not probably the most effective way to go about it. You need an event. You need a triggering story, not just an ongoing saga. There has to be something dramatic that has happened that you can point to that's going to hold their attention, and you have to not bring it to them. You have to be doing something that brings them to you.
Okay. That's good to know for people listening too, thinking about trying to get into this type of advocacy. And it sounds like you've got some feedback, so you have to have some sort of, as you said, event and let them come to you essentially.
Yeah. So it's been a real learning experience for us because honestly, this is new for everyone in the group. And I feel, we got so much help from so many people across Canada, and we didn't make the best use of it that we could have, because we're just going to have to call it a learning experience for all of us, right? But it's not something that we're going to say, okay, that didn't work, we're giving up. It's that, no, we're going to continue moving on. Can I say that if anyone's interested in advocacy in Canada, we'd be happy to hear from you. You go to the website, Canadian Lyme Coalition.ca. My email's on it. There's a little form on the top right-hand corner. You give us your email. We'll contact you, and you can come and help us in any way you want to. You don't need to have experience, because the rest of us came to it without a lot of experience.
So
we're learning a lot as we go.
Sounds like it. And I think it's fair to say that, especially when you're within a year and a half and it's a new endeavor, that you are kind of in that like unofficial student, like you are in that learning and recalibrating phase. And sometimes for new ventures that can go on for years, certain types of careers, etc. So I think that for me, anytime you're planting the seed, someone else might come and plant the same seed, and then still it might be no, but then someone else might plant the same seed with some sort of event, and then, I remember all those other times I heard that type of thing. So as Dawn is saying, I think that if you're still trying these advocacy things, that's good. It's
our intention to be fast learners.
Yeah.
So for example, we did the survey. It was well received by researchers as well as participants. We had a lot of high participation rate. But the other thing I didn't mention is I went to other countries to look for guidance on how they've conducted surveys. So I found lead people in other countries, talked to them. They would send me examples of surveys or give me suggestions of what they think needs to be included. So I got from Australia. They were working on a survey, so I coordinated with them, talked to people in Europe, and they said, well, here's some questions. If you could put these questions in your survey, we could coordinate with ours and look for similarities in what we did. So those questions are in the survey. Through that process of talking to other countries, I got invited to join an organization called Lyme Global, which is an alliance from different countries of patient groups and advocates trying to coordinate our efforts around the world and try to make a difference that way. I've been participating, along with Lyme, by the way, is the other representative for Canada in the organization. I'm part of that. And in there, we get to hear what other countries are doing and similarities and differences. So I went to that group and said, look, I want to do something on an international scale, and I would like to put together a international survey. Now that we're experts, having done one, we would like to do that. So there's 3 other countries that are now working with us, and we're working on finalizing a proposal for an international survey that will bring in a bunch of countries, because I believe to win this battle, we need to be working together, because I think the healthcare system in Canada, like other countries, probably doesn't want to be first in doing something that's controversial. So we need to work together to change the whole conversation. So that is going to be a multi-year venture. So we're starting in Canada, but we have Finland and Argentina and Netherlands who said they'd be willing to help us in this venture. It's much more complex than doing a local one. There is regulations, because this is now considered healthcare data that we're dealing with, that we have to abide by in different countries. There is something that's called ethical approval, a step that you have to go through to do something like this nationally, and it's different for each country. And these steps now all cost money. So the $0 budgeting is not going to work on this. So we have to go out and seek funding internationally for this venture. But that's a step that's come by just doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and we think that will be of value to everyone globally, as well as in Canada. But it's going to take us, honestly, a couple of years to get through all that.
Yeah, and that's fair. Sometimes it does take time to make sure you do it, and that you don't get to another stage where they shut it down and say, you missed some sort of criteria.
Yeah, if we're going to do it, we have to do it properly. Unfortunately, there's people who are willing to help, who understand this much better than I do, because these issues are complex. And I'm learning about what it takes to publish research is its own world, its own rules, its own guidelines to maintain the professional standards. And if you want this data to be taken seriously by the healthcare system in any country, you have to do it properly.
Yeah,
and so
definitely.
That's what we're going to attempt to do.
You're actually leading me into my next question, is for any future advocates or just anybody in the community in general. I'm going to list the two things that come to my mind in terms of what I would say to consider before doing advocacy or early on. And you actually mentioned them. So you mentioned credibility. So for me, that would be one of my top two in terms of trying as much as possible to actually reference, research when you can, and researchers or anything along those lines. My second one, Don actually mentioned as well. He said checking to other countries. So for me, that would be check what other people have already done, and then see what worked well and what didn't, and then devise your plan once if you looked around and see, and that could be starting in your own country and then taking a peek to outer countries and saying, hey, what have you guys tried? Like what's landed, what's not? So those would be my top two. Is there anything you can think of, Don, off the top of your head that's super important to consider for advocacy work in terms of to maintain the integrity of the topic and the community and the people in it?
Well, you know what? I'm going to answer your question a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
I think you need to be not afraid to step out of your comfort zone.
I like that.
I've stepped way out of my comfort zone. I have no experience in the medical community whatsoever. But I just decided if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that means doing things I would have thought I had no business doing. I have no expertise in doing, but just to go ahead and start doing it, and not to be afraid to talk to anyone. Just start calling, emailing, contact. If say this is the top person in this country for this, is okay. I'm gonna call them. The worst that can happen is they're not gonna respond or tell me to go away. I come from a background in small business, and in small business, most of your time is spent selling. So I had spent a lot of time chasing down people who really weren't interested in hearing from me. And I want to be doing the same thing. I want to be spending time talking and dealing with people in the healthcare field who don't agree with us.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Those are awesome points. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be like the conversation I had with my doctor, which took a long time. I want to be having those conversations with the healthcare community in general in Canada and abroad. So I've actually, because of what we've done so far, I've been invited now to a medical conference in Europe to make a presentation of what we're doing in Canada around tick-borne infections in September. And there is a plan, this is Can Lyme is leading charge in this, for a medical conference in Canada. It's going to be in Toronto in November. And I've been asked to give a couple presentations about what we're doing there as well. And so that clearly puts me outside my sphere of expertise. That one in Europe, apparently doctors will get continuing medical education credits. But yeah, you just don't be afraid. If you don't know how you're going to contribute or what you want to do, you just think you can contribute, there's going to be something to try. In our group, we recognize that we're all sick, more or less, right? We have good times and bad times, maybe more bad times, but everyone in our group, one is healthy, but it's because of her daughter who's very sick and is now getting much better. So she's stepped into this role because of that. But everyone else is suffering from some form of tick-borne disease, more or less. And if someone has trouble keeping up with the commitment, then someone else will step in to help out. We all understand that.
Yeah.
So we're doing the best we can.
So I like your two additions. So mine was credibility and, learn from what other people have already done out in and outside of your country. Dawn's added, step up. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because if you've never done this before, you're going to be having to step out of that comfort zone many times.
And to be honest, there's no one else to do it. No one's doing it for us.
Exactly. Yeah. And number 4, don't be afraid of people. Anything you want to elaborate on that, Dawn, or do you want to leave it as is? I have an elaboration, but I'd like to give you the first
You know what? Anyone in the tick-borne community I've talked to, mostly Canada, but also they're all happy to talk to you. I've never had anyone that wouldn't give me the time. Everyone's willing to offer their opinion, give you the information you're asking for. Everyone wants to help as best they can. I've never been turned down by anyone that I've talked to that I can think of right now. So
there you go.
It's a very positive experience.
Yeah, the Lyme and Co-infection community, it's a good community. The community itself is a lot of resources and all different knowledge aspects you could imagine. To Dawn's point as well, if somebody's a practitioner or they've done a lot of research, don't be afraid of it. If you have an ask as a patient, know your worth as a patient. You hold a very vast, rich experience of that personal lived experience as a patient. So just remember that we are all human beings, regardless of our designations. So that's a very good point. I quite enjoy that point, Dawn. So thank you.
We're about to start a new project, which is the Make Friends with a Researcher project. So we're going to have probably just a team of 2 people. We're going to look and we're going to be scouring all the research papers that are out there that has something to do with tick-borne infections. Primarily in Canada, but we won't steer away from other countries as well. Find the researchers, and this is research that we disagree with. So we're going to find research papers that we don't agree with. And we're going to find the researchers, find their emails, and try to engage them in a respectful and friendly conversation. We saw your paper, you brought some interesting points, but there's some research you may not be aware. And our arguments have to be strongly based on science. It can't be just opinions. It has to be, we want to have a conversation. We would like them to try to come back and try to convince us of their position.
Okay.
So we want to try with as many as we can, but just engage a conversation over months, maybe even years, so they can hear the other side. So when they're working on their next project, they know that there may be some other sources of information they haven't thought of before that really need to be taken into consideration, that for their research to be valid, they have to look at these other sides of things. And over time, we may change their way they conduct the research.
We'd be curious to hear how that winds up going. This is a hypothetical question. If you had unlimited financial resources and just overall resources at your disposal, do you have a dream for where you'd hope advocacy goes if you had everything available?
Everything available? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's so much research on tick-borne infections out there. I know someone who's out of Europe, a leading researcher out there, and they're trying to make sense of all the research papers that are published on that. And I think they found 8,800 papers, published specifically on tick-borne infections in general. And they look at the rate at which papers are being published. And take broadly the 2 sides, people who believe in chronic ongoing infections and those who think it's not a chronic ongoing infection, it's a different infection, it's leftover symptoms, the different arguments that are made that why chronic Lyme and the other infections are not real or not ongoing. And right now, there's more papers are being published yearly on the other side that's attempt to prove that it's not real. They have more financial strength, right? They have access to resources than we do. My zero-cost budgeting doesn't get a lot of research papers published. And the same goes worldwide. So we're losing the battle in terms of quantities of paper. So it makes it difficult for us to just say, here, look at this paper, or look at that paper, and win the argument based on that, because there's, for every paper that we find, there's others, and you get caught in this terrible argument over small details of it. I would like to have a meta-analysis done of using AI to help you screen it, of all the papers that have been written on tick-borne infection, and try to sort out and try to understand all the main arguments of the other side. Because these people they believe in what they're doing. They believe they're right. They believe their research is part of the right, and we know the opposite. And so I want to really understand the basis of all this thinking and all the data that supports our argument. So for us to win the longer war, we really need to understand everything about how the other side's thinking. To produce a meta-analysis of this, I've learned, is very difficult and time-consuming and expensive. It's not something we're able to do in a way that would be credible, that would be recognized without a substantial budget. And so that's one thing that would be, I think, a really strong tool for us to have in our tool chest that we don't have right now and don't have an easy way of coming up with.
So if you had a dream maker of sorts, that would be it.
I would put together the dream team of the top researchers in the world, AI researchers, tick-borne infection researchers, and have them do a meta-analysis looking at both sides of the argument and putting together the top papers, I guess you would say, and critique them all. Critique both sides of them and see what comes out of that.
Interesting. I guess we'll see if this dream ever comes to fruition. Time will tell. Is there anything else that you're planning or hoping to do in the next 5 or 10 years or so? Or will you stay connected to advocacy as your...
No, this is what I'm going to do. To be honest, I'm just turned 65. I don't need to work. I'm okay. I'm not going to say I'm wealthy, but I'm okay. I can afford whatever treatment I need to do, unlike many people. I'm going to say I'm in remission more now than I'm ill. And when I'm ill, I'm not as ill as I was before. I intend to focus on this, my family, and this. This will be the two focuses for me, because I think people with tick-borne infection deserve to have people fighting for them. I'm gonna make an effort at it, along with all the people who are working with me, because we have a pretty strong team now. And we're always open to anyone else who wants to come and help us in whatever role they want.
So it's putting the call out there as well for advocacy.
If you wanted to help and you didn't know where to turn or what to do, contact us and we'll have a conversation and talk to you about what we're doing. And you can look for maybe how you can fit in and how you can help us. And
there you go. Because we know there's a whole lot of incorrect information in our country here on Lyme disease. If you could give one pointer to people who are outside and even in tall grass, what would be that one suggestion to people? If you only get one, I could bump it up to 2 if you really want to. But what would you say to them, the most impactful 1 or 2?
Well, one of the things that upsets me most is if you think you've decided that you or a family member, a child might have it. Maybe you've already gone and got a test done from IGeneX or Armin Labs or others, and you have a positive. Now what do you do? Your family practitioner probably doesn't believe you. Where do you turn to? Well, you're looking on the internet, and there's all kinds of stuff out there that some of it's really helpful, and some of it's going to direct you in the wrong direction. And you could waste your retirement savings, your family savings, going in the wrong direction and not helping the person that needs to be helped. Where do you go to get information that's going to help you go in the right direction and not make a mistake? Because most of us have no background in the healthcare. We don't really know. So it's easy to go, in an ineffective way. I would suggest join OO Canada. If you want someone, you say, I don't know what to do. They're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to tell you what to do. But we're going to point you to the resources that are credible and can help you and steer you in the right direction.
So as you're answering, I was thinking to myself, what would I suggest?
How would I answer that question?
But yeah, to your point, Lyme OO Facebook group is a very good landing pad because there's someone in there that knows something about what you're talking about very often and can help. They really help get you in the right direction if you've been bitten. So that's a very good answer. Yeah.
If you go to our website, lymecoalition.ca, it's not going to tell you what to do. It's going to tell you where to go. It's going to tell you, go see what Canadian Lyme has to say. Go see what OO Lyme Canada. It's going to point you to resources that are available to you in Canada who can give you good advice, because we're not here to help you medically. We're here to advocate on your behalf. That's the role that we've chosen for ourselves. So you can go to my site and it'll help you find some direction, maybe.
I know you mentioned that that you're in this advocacy for life, myself included. Sometimes it feels like it chooses us, and once it's in my head, I can't get it out. So it sounds like you're in that for life. Was that a helpful or a hindrance to you in this last year and a half with your healing journey? Has it given you something to look forward to?
It gives you a purpose, right? Because the battle's difficult, isn't it? You know, this is not easy. And it's not only not easy in Canada, it's not easy elsewhere. Because, I now talk to these people in other countries. Talk to people in Australia and Argentina as two examples where the healthcare authorities don't believe ticks exist, let alone Lyme. They're a step behind, and they're battling that. But this battle that we're going through is just about worldwide, pretty much worldwide. Everyone's fighting the same thing. So it's clear it's not going to be easy. The other view way back in the 80s went in the wrong direction, some poor research. And this medical community is a conservative community because they were dealing with people's lives. So by nature they are. It's really hard to turn the ship around. So yeah, it's a tough battle. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to win next week, right?
So it sounds like it gave you something to continue fighting for, added to that. And for me as well, I would say same thing for me. So if you're someone at home, you're still quite sick, and you're not quite ready to jump into it, start just writing down or even recording your ideas for advocacy for when you're ready. So you can start at any phase of the healing, whatever you can do from the sounds.
If you're ill and you can't help out, that's okay, right? We'll do that. Those of us that can will. You just have to do what you have to do to get through today and tomorrow and the next week until you are better, because you will get better. It's just going to take time, and it's a really hard journey. And if you are in a space where you're a little bit better, we're here if you want to help.
So Don's website for the Canadian Lyme Coalition is canadianlymecoalition.ca. Is that correct?
That's it.
You can go on there, send a message to them, and reach out if you're wanting to start testing out what it's like to do some advocacy or just to have some discussion around it.
You can come and audit us. You can come in and just hang around with us for a while before you decide. You don't have to make it,
Yeah, you could be a fly on the wall,
there you go.
Just watching them. So that's allowed too. So Don, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Lyme and Co-infection community before we sort of wrap up?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. I think that we need to work with people in other countries as well as being our own group, and we're willing to do that. And that's going to be an interesting life experience for anyone who gets involved in it. It's going to be something new, probably something you'll be doing things you've never done before, and help give you a little bit of purpose.
There you go. I hope some people reach out. I guess with that being said, Don, I would just like to thank you so much for taking time out of your day at the cottage there, the beautiful nature landscape, for sharing with us on the Your Lyme Matters podcast. And we'll thank your dog, Jack, as well. And the family for lending your time to us as well. So thank you very much. We appreciate having you on.
I'm more than happy to do it. It's what you're doing is a great thing, and I'm just honored to be able to participate.